What's going on, sports fans? This is Jake Waxman
and Tyler Lavalette
coming to you live with another Two Guys Talk Sports Friday Roundtable from the studio here in Waterford. We're going to start things off with the start of a brand new baseball season. It's that wonderful time of year, isn't it, Mr. Tyler Lavalette?
That it is. And for those of you of T-Mobile, I hope you enjoyed your free MLB.TV subscription. If you were able to watch the games after like 5 p.m. or so, because outages hit yesterday and caused the servers to go bad. It was not fun. People thinking they had blackouts when there weren't. But thankfully, everything's all up and running now. Still, not a good look there, MLB Advanced Media. Not a good look.
Really less than ideal way to start a new baseball season. I could only just, when Tyler Lavalette was telling me about this, I could only just stop myself and picture the look on his face, just how ticked off he must have been having those nuisance of a blackouts. But I'm glad that saga is over with. I'm glad Tyler's got his baseball. That's where I'll leave that.
Yes, I will leave that there. It was lucky that my Tigers had were on ESPN anyway, so I would have been too affected. I mean, granted, I'd be blacked out of the games in Detroit on FanDuel Sports Network on MLB.TV anyway. But at least now I did get Helmet on FanDuel Sports Network to work through my brother's Prime account, so we're good there. Anyway, speaking of the Tigers, they ended up falling to the defending World Series champs, the Dodgers, who raised the banner at their first home game back after Tokyo. We have a few good clips. Let's show the first one.
Seemed like they were on the precipice.
Just to get the ball rolling on a new ball season.
And here's the Torkelson home run. The team kept it close. And yet, like I said, they ended up falling to Dodgers afterwards, but I like how they kept it close there.
Good first game if you're a Detroit fan.
Anyway, I think we ought to have a second baseball clip.
Here's one from Mr. Tyler Lavalette.
And I hear a good throw, and
Again, sports fans, just to get you into the mood of baseball season, me and Tyler both went with Detroit's baseball clips. So another new season brings new hopes for fan bases like Detroit and Chicago.
And I heard that the Cubs won spoiled the Diamondbacks opener last night too, if I'm not mistaken.
Right you are, Tyler. I checked the score last night while I was trying to balance out between keeping up with the Cubs and watching March Madness. I noticed the Cubs had won 6-2 in Arizona, so really terrific start to the season on the road for the Cubs. They'll have another game tonight in Arizona. Hopefully they can make it 2 in a row. And thing I liked what I saw, hey, 6 runs, that's a lot. That's good offense. Cubs this season, if they want to make a postseason run, if they want to get into the postseason like the Detroit Tigers did last year, you got to have loud bats. And this is a good start. 6 runs to win your first game. Good start, all things considered.
I still like that the team had a chance to keep it in the end and keep it close, even if for the Tigers, but nothing materialized, sadly. The wind was not in our favor yesterday. Now, there's the chance of them doing it tonight and tomorrow night, with tonight being the Dodgers' ring ceremony. But besides that, they played 2 more with the Dodgers, like I said, off on Sunday of all days, oddly enough. And then 3 in Seattle, and then back home, just against the White Sox next Friday.
All right, so it sounds like a pretty large road trip to start the season for the Detroit Tigers. But
well, at least it's 2 West Coast trips, stadiums out of the way.
Yeah, nothing wrong with doing that early. Nothing wrong with testing yourself early to see kind of how you're going to do on the road this upcoming season, especially let alone out on the West Coast. It's difficult to travel out on the West Coast. But so far, 1 game into the season, it's not going to determine Detroit's fate in terms of like whether or not they make the postseason. There's a couple other good teams out there that I know of that lost their first game, and they would go later on to make the postseason. Hey, you're just kind of getting a feel for things in these first games. You're starting kind of figuring out lineups, who you want as your starting batters, bullpen, all that stuff. Each first game, it's the start of a new season, and every team is just still kind of looking for that perfect lineup, figuring out how to stack all the pieces together. And the Tigers, it's no different. I have no doubt they're going to have a good season. All right, one game's not going to define it. Like I said, just one of those. That first game, you're always kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And it's the same with the Cubs. Yes, it helps. I mean, yes, the Cubs did win their first game, but I'm pretty sure their lineups are not 100% set either. Like, they're not 100% convinced that, okay, there's the lineup that they've got right now at bat and in the outfielders is going to be the same lineups that they have later on the season. It's a long, long journey.
And, of course, your team has some West Coast trips. You got the next four or so against the Diamondbacks. And then you're going to be the first team to visit the Athletics with no city identification in West Sacramento at the minor league ballpark run by the AAA affiliate of the San Francisco Giants for the next 3 seasons.
Well, then, I mean, hey, I like a good road test to start the season off for the Cubs. Interestingly, I figured there wasn't a stadium ready at Las Vegas at the moment, but to go and play in a ballpark like that, well, I mean, we can all, you know what? Regardless of where the Athletics are playing this season, we all know one thing. We all know who we could blame for this whole mess right now they're starting with. Their ownership, all right? It's the ownership's fault they're in this mess and playing in someone else's stadium for that matter. Crazy stuff, but for the Cubs, hey, this is a good road test in terms of figuring out, okay, what's everything going to look like? What pieces are we going to have in place? Like, how's Shota Amanaga going to look to start this season, I'm sure he's not going to play in every game this season, but the Cubs, it's critical that he gets off to a good start. He's key to the whole thing in terms of pitching for the Cubs. Mm-hmm. So they need him to start off strong. And you know what? In addition, bats need to start off loudly. And hey, no better way to get that started than going on the road for your first few games and seeing what you got out there on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Also, the Rays are playing now at the Yankees spring training facility thanks to the damage caused to the Trop by Hurricane Milton. So at least their situation is understandable.
Yes.
And kudos to the Yankees for stepping in and telling the Tampa Bay Rays, we'll let you use our facilities for this season. We may not like the Yankees much as a team with their success and all, but here, you did a good thing, Yankees. You did good.
All right, just for once, I'll give the Yankees a thumbs up because class acts on them to allow the Tampa Bay Rays to allow the Tampa Bay Rays to use their practice facilities as a means to play their baseball games while I believe it's called Tropicana Field is undergoing repairs. I mean, I saw the devastation from the damage caused to the stadium from the hurricane. It was gut-wrenching, to say the least. The whole roof was blown open. The whole field was exposed to all the elements. So that's gonna be a lengthy and costly repair for the Rays. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think the Rays are gonna leave Tampa by any means of the stretch. I really don't think that. I think they'll stay in Tampa, but the stadium situation is gonna be, for lack of better words, it's gonna be challenging, a bit of a trial to say the least.
We'll see what happens. Anyway, on to some predictions, shall we? At least give a feel for the 6 division winners.
All right, I'll start this off. Here's my predictions. Starting with the American League, in the AL East will be won by those dastardly Yankees. The AL Central, I'm going with the Cleveland Guardians. It'll be a close race, though, between them and the Tigers, who I have as the first wild card in the AL.
Okay.
And the West will be won by America's cheaters, the Astros.
You still think they got it, huh?
I think they still got a little bit left in them. I mean, you never know what they've been doing behind the scenes, Mr. Lovell. I mean, once a cheater, always a cheater. Moving on to the NL. The East. The NL East, the Phillies, they're still the Phillies. They're still really good. I've got them winning the East. The Central, here's my bold pick. I'm going with the Cincinnati Reds to win the NL Central. It's so wild. I know everybody's thinking about the Brewers, and I think the Brewers, they could repeat, but I have a feeling the Reds are going to be one of those teams that takes strides forward, and probably more than I think people will imagine. Or this is just my wildest guess, because I need to do better as a baseball fan, making predictions and watching more baseball games, but I got a feeling about those Reds. And then finally, for the rest, okay, the Dodgers are still the Dodgers. They're going to win it. Okay, so there's no trolleys out in L.A. Okay, I know they're originally called the Trolley Dodgers, but just because there's no trolleys out in L.A. doesn't mean we still can't call them the Dodgers. So Dodgers take the West.
So let's start with the American League. East, I'm going to say the Orioles. They're really they've been a promising team these days. The Central, I feel like it's going to be Minnesota, as much as it kind of pains me because Detroit's been really good. I mean, but they may not be that good to win it all at this time. We'll see. Now, the West, really, I can't go past the Astros as well on that one. NL East. Now, anyway, that's in National League. The East, that's definitely Phillies territory. They're just really good right now. Mets might not have it in the tank yet, and Atlanta had dealt with a lot of injuries these days, so who knows how good they'll be going forward with dealing with these injuries. The Central, I feel like it might be the Brewers. It's going to be a crazy division, but I feel like the Brewers just got something good going with them, even with Greg Counter now on the north side of Chicago for his second season. And yeah, the Dodgers are going to be the Dodgers in the West. Any questions?
None from me.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, I got no questions about the Dodgers, in all seriousness. Now, in terms of the wild cards, sports fans, you already heard one of my predictions for the wild cards, and that's for the AL wild card number 1. I've got the Detroit Tigers. I think they improved from last season. They build off of what they did last year. Last year, they were surprised. They rallied after that game that me and Tyler went to at Wrigley Field, and they rallied to win a lot of games and win enough to get into the playoffs and actually lock up a playoff spot early. So I think this year, not only do they lock up a playoff spot early, they go toe-to-toe, I believe, with the Guardians in the AL Central. It'll be close between those two, but I think Cleveland just edges out Detroit for the division championship, but Detroit does enough to get that first wild card spot, or actually more than enough. Wild card number 2, I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they got some promise there. They got some talent there, and they've kind of been in the mix for quite a while in terms of being consistently in the MLB playoffs. And then finally, as for my third and final wild card spot, all right, I might be throwing a curveball or a Hail Mary, whatever you want to say, throwing a fastball for you on this one. I've got the Mariners getting the final wild card spot in the American League.
Okay.
And then now for the National League, wild card 1, I'm giving that to the Mets.
Okay.
Plenty of talent on the Mets. I think they get back. Wild card number 2, I'm going to go with the Brewers. That's right. I think the NL Central, as crazy as it is, they're going to send 2 teams this year. And the Brewers, they're going to get a wild card spot. And then finally, wild card number 3. Okay, I either am really shooting for the moon on this one, or I am Dolulu on this one. But I'm going with the San Francisco Giants for wild card number 3.
Ooh. Okay. Wild card team for me. Let's start with American League. So I said I had the Royals winning. It's the Yankees in for wild card spot 1. Tigers for wild card spot 2. I mean, come on, the Tigers. I still feel like the Tigers are good enough to make it a wild card team. And you know what? throw in a little fun and also have 3 teams in the Central and have the Twins take the third wild card spot. The thing is, the 3 wild cards don't have to necessarily be from a different division. Like, you don't necessarily have 2 teams in the playoffs from the East, 2 from the Central, 2 from the West. You could have multiples of a division wild card team based on the records. Now, as for the National League, East, it's gonna be. I feel like the Mets could be still good enough to make it. Let's go with the Cubs for the second wild card spot, and Padres for the third one. We'll factor in World Series and stuff champions when we definitely get closer to October, that's for sure.
Yes, indeed. You kind of caught me off guard with that. Tyler Lavalette believes in the Cubs more than I do. I'm not going to lie. I got some work to do on being a better Cubs fan then. But part of it is I thought about picking the Cubs too as a wild card. The thing is, I'm just not sure that their bats are going to be loud enough when it matters most. And pitching sometimes can let them down. The bullpen, all that stuff can sometimes be really inconsistent with the Cubs as it has been with the past. So I did think about it. I'm just, not sure about it. But you know what? Tyler I hope he knows more than I do. And they make the postseason and then everybody turns around and laughs at Jay because he didn't pick the Cubs to make the postseason when he should have. He needs to believe more in his team. All that stuff. Now, in all seriousness, I'll admit this, I've overlooked the Padres. I know they can be very good, and they made the playoffs last year, but I'm kind of also accounting for lots of shifts and kind of free agents and all that stuff. And baseball can surprise us from time to time, like a team that we think doesn't make the playoffs and then just somehow does. That's kind of where I'm going with my pick when it comes to the Giants or the San Francisco Giants, because they've rebuilt time and time again, especially after those years which they won the World Series, the early 2010s. It took a while for them to get back, but when they rebuilt, and they actually have been they've been in and out of the playoffs, but it's an organization that I know can rebuild from time to time and retool whenever they need to most. And I thought about the Twins too. Really thought about them, at least as a wild card in the AL. All I got to say is, we'll see. That division that Tyler mentioned, that with the Yankees and that's the same division as the Tigers, sorry.
Central.
That's
the division. Is with the Yankees are in the East.
Sorry. That Central division, it can be tough. It's also another reason why I think it'll be tough for like 3 teams to come out of there and make the postseason. I've got 2 at the very least in Cleveland and Detroit, who I think are not only 2 of the 2 best teams in that division, I think 2 of the best teams in baseball.
We'll see how it goes.
Yes, we will indeed. Should be an interesting baseball season. Tyler, I hope you have a lot of fun this baseball season. I'm going to try, like I said, I'm going to try and do better watching baseball. And also, we'll see how the picks go. Chances are Tyler's picks over here are going to be miles ahead of mine. Like, he's going to get more correct probably than I will. Because mine, I'm just kind of flinging the fastball out of nowhere.
Now, granted, if the Tigers somehow win the Central, we'll both be wrong, but I'll be okay with that.
I'd love to see that, too. And I think they can. It's just, there's also Cleveland there, too. It's going to be a nice battle between those 2. Should be an interesting baseball season to watch. And before we shift gears to our next subject, to all of you out there who watch sports and baseball, just want to wish you a happy baseball season.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and now we are shifting gears to the NCAA Tournament. Can we please roll the clip? So, tournament action last night happened. Arizona and Duke. Of course, that was a game that came down to the wire with Duke just surviving. Now, before we get into last night's games and tonight's games, I thought I'd talk about some subjects that are happening outside of the noise that's being created from matchups like Duke and Arizona. I'm going to start by saying this. Sports fans, I'm going to say something that might shock some of you. This tournament, compared to tournaments in years past, it's looking pretty bland or boring. And I don't mean that there hasn't been any good games or not. The problem is all the high seeds got to the first round, or at least the majority of them. It feels like almost all of them got there. And it feels like whatever Cinderellas we were hoping for, no Cinderellas. And sadly, sadly, this may have been the last time, maybe not the last time, but Cinderellas, as well as surprise teams, may come in the rarity going forward. And there's a big reason why. It's the gosh darn transfer portal and the gosh darn name, image, and licensing that is favoring all the teams who put their money into this sport. So sadly, and here's the thing, you want proof that the transfer portal is wreaking havoc on the NCAA tournament? I'll give you one such example. Here's one that's really going to want to make Tyler potentially yank his hair out. So U of M guard Justin Pippen, who's a freshman, Michigan's still in the tournament. He's already announced he's transferring from the University of Michigan. So I guess that tournament run, regardless of how far Michigan goes, doesn't matter to him. He's out of there. Go ahead, Tyler.
Really, Justin? You don't exactly care about how Michigan does going forward. You think that the moment your time with the season ends for Michigan, you're gonna go elsewhere? College basketball and college football are creating the thing I really start to dread in the pros, the super teams. That TV money that you have nowadays in the conferences is more lucrative, and it's definitely showing. Look at the SEC as a big conference as a whole. And yeah, that ESPN deal is no slouch. But yeah, NIL deals and transfer portals, the push to make them happen, especially the NIL, may have had good intentions, but we're definitely seeing some costs. And we're not seeing Cinderella runs as that in March Madness. It is quite a shame to not have an upset like we had with Oakland last year.
This isn't March Madness. This is March Sadness in a way. Because the biggest upset we got this year was number 12 McNeese over number 5 Clemson on the Midwest side of things. I thought we were going to have more upsets than that, but nothing more that came out of it. And Tyler mentioned all the TV deals, lucrative. And because of that, the universities, they're in conferences, say like the Big Ten, the SEC, ACC, and the Big 12. They're getting a lot of money. And with all that money comes more influence over recruits, whether they're in the portal or high school recruits. They're wielding that big influence, and especially big name teams who are invested in like college football and college basketball. They're gonna wield that money and use it as a weapon to get the best of the best, and that's gonna hurt smaller schools. And another thing, if you have a team next year that didn't make the tournament this year that has a chance to get back in it next year, and potentially make a Cinderella run, that's not going to happen. Almost 9 out of 10 times, that's not going to happen now, because that team's best player is going to transfer. He's going to look for a bigger opportunity at a big name school because the money's going to come calling, pretty much. That's one of the things here that Tyler is alluding to, and it's not good. It's reshaping the landscape of college basketball and college football in a not-so-good way. Now, if you're looking for those upsets in the NCAA tournament, they're going to become more and more rare, because these Cinderellas, when they come in, or potential Cinderellas, when they come into the tournament, they are going up against teams that are pretty stacked. Like, they got talent all around, because most of those teams they're facing are made up of recruits from the portal, whether it's from, say, a recruit from Indiana, or maybe it's a recruit, say, from Missouri, or just the best players all around and even from smaller schools like Indiana State. They're going to poach those best players away. And then going into next year's tournament, upsets are going to be rare, because the big name teams are the teams that are high seeded. They're going to be stacked all around. And in terms of that, And I want to mention this when it comes to Justin Pippen, who, by the way, is the son of Scottie Pippen. This is, I think, one of the first times, it's not the very first time, that I have seen a player for a school hit the portal before that school's run in the NCAA tournament is finished. Michigan still has a chance to go all the way and win it all. And he decides to leave and miss out on all the good times that Michigan's got going. Regardless of how it ends for Michigan, Dusty May's done a great job with Michigan. But to have this kind of distraction, it's not good for the team. Of course, the team seems to be managing okay in spite of the fact that he just decided, I'm out of here before the run even ends. No, this isn't good. This isn't healthy for college athletics, okay? This is not good at all. And no matter who you root for, the last thing you want is a distraction like this where a guy on the team or a promising freshman who didn't get a whole lot of playing time in the regular season because it's tough to break through when your team's stacked, he decides to hit the portal and look for other opportunities rather than wait for the opportunity next year, or not even wait and enjoy the great moments that come with being a part of a team that makes a run in the NCAA tournament. Blasphemous.
It's just not good. I mean, if you were a sports fan decades past, and you if you took someone from who was a sports fan even in the mid to late 20th century, and you told them about what would happen in the 2020s, they would not recognize it. For many, many, many reasons. It's not good at all.
No, it is not. Again, this is why I dislike NLI, and this is why I'm really disliking the transfer portal. It's all out of control. College basketball doesn't matter. Like NCAA tournament doesn't matter. Bowl season for college football doesn't matter. Players hit the portal early because the NIL deals are pumping out. They're printing it like our government prints out money. So when it comes to that, pretty much right now, when it comes to the transfer portal and NIL, there's two things I think about it. It's March Sadness, and it's a bunch of bull crap. That's what I think of it.
We're getting a lot more pumpkins going forward.
Yep, a lot less Cinderellas and more clocks striking the midnight. It's a good one, Tyler.
Boy.
All right, I'm going to shift just a little bit to something a little more positive. So, for teams that have been knocked out, there are two teams that I have in mind, Texas and Xavier. Both of these two teams have one thing in common. They have a new coach. So, the new coach for Texas is Sean Miller, who is coming over, ironically, from Xavier. The funny thing about it, Xavier beat Texas to get into the round of 64 in the NCAA tournament. And Texas poaches the Xavier coach. Interesting move. I mean, this is another new coach for Texas. We'll see what Coach Sean Miller can do for this team, but it's a big task ahead for a guy who's been a couple different places. And also for Xavier, their new coach, they poached from New Mexico, a guy by the name of Richard Pitino. And yes, he is the son of Rick Pitino.
Oh, this is going to be good.
So the Big East now, in a sense, is a father-son rivalry. As you know what? As Tom Izzo said, those dang Patinos. Now they're gonna. That's what's gonna be happening a lot. Like everybody's gonna be talking about this in the Big East for a while because you got a father and a son rivalry going on right now. And when those Xavier and St. John's matchups are announced, get ready, get your popcorn ready. This is going to be entertaining.
Time for it's going to be must-see TV.
Yes, it is. So, a couple changes in coaches, and I will also add side of the tournament. And this is Villanova, still waiting to hear about their coach. Wouldn't surprise me to learn that it's somebody who is still coaching in the NCAA tournament. One name that comes to mind for me is Chris Beard.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Nova. They're just waiting for the opportunities for coaches whose time in the dance are done for. Obviously, you're not going to have a guy like Tom Izzo, that's for sure. He's definitely going to be retiring at some point down the road.
Absolutely. I keep wondering, is this the tournament? Is this his last go? Depends on how far Michigan State goes. On one final note, before we get into the action, thoughts and prayers go out to Juju Watkins and her family. Her season, sadly, was cut short by an ACL tear. Yeah, it's so tough. Breaks my heart. And it's a really tough, not only a tough break for her and her family, tough break for USC women's basketball, who were looking like a favorite to go win the national championship on the women's tournament. And not saying they can't make a deep run, but considering they got UConn in their side of the bracket, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to get to the Final Four in Tampa.
Of course, for UConn, Paige Becker is going to declared for the draft, for the WNBA draft. So there's that to consider. Of course, Juju's potential draft stock definitely took a bit of a hit if she were to go into the WNBA draft later this year. But if she can come back for another season, it might help out her case a little. We'll see.
Honestly, I think, as Tyler mentioned, I honestly believe it would be better for her to go one more season and go through a recovery process, because it could be a lengthy process. And even then, sadly, hopefully she's able to get back to 100% and quickly. Wishing her all the best. It's tough to come back from an ACL tear. ACL tears can ruin an athlete's career, and I hope it doesn't ruin Juju Watkins' career. I hope she's able to come back stronger than ever. If I'm her, I'd go one more season in college hoops. Go on one more tournament run before you declare. And Paige Beckers, as Tyler alluded to, a favorite to win the Player of the Year award on the women's side of things, and a favorite to be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft. But she's got a lot to focus on, and I will say, watch out for UConn now. They might be the new favorite to win it on, as long as Paige Beckers is leading the way.
Time will tell on the women's front. Anyway, so we're getting to the action for tonight's Sweet 16 regional semis.
Yes, right you are, Mr. Lavalette. So, last night, we'll start with what happened last night. As alluded to before, Duke knocking off Arizona in a close quarters matchup. That was an insane basketball. That was probably one of the better games I saw. The second best basketball game I saw last night. The best basketball game, I'll get to that in just a brief second. That was between Arkansas and Maryland. What a finish in that was. In terms of the Duke game, okay. Here we go again. So Duke won fair and square, okay? They won the game fair and square, no question. But there was also, I just got to be honest, the officiating in that game on both sides was questionable. Would you say you noticed something like that, Tyler?
I was more focused on the Tigers game, but come on, refs. We don't watch or attend these games because of you. We do not do that.
That's what everybody was talking about. Like, we wanted to, because that was a really good basketball game, but sadly, the quality of that basketball game was overshadowed by officiating on both sides. There's two calls in particular, like one in which they called a flagrant one on Arizona for, I believe, a hook and hold. And then Duke goes down, or someone on Duke did the same thing. There was no flagrant one foul on that. Like, what the heck? You can't just call one and call the other. You got to call it both ways. A flagrant one is a flagrant one. Hook and hold is a hook and hold. It's a serious foul. You got to call it that. Shame on those refs for that. And they ruined, or I won't say 100% ruined, but they cast a shadow on what was otherwise a fantastic and classic game between Duke and Arizona. Moving on to a more positive side of things, Maryland and Arkansas, oh my goodness, what a game. Okay, that was popcorn entertainment. What a game between those two. Texas Tech had to rally from, I think, 16 down to force overtime. And they just were able to outlast Arkansas in overtime. And props to Arkansas and John Calipari, who that team battled injuries all season long. And to get to the Sweet 16 in a year like that is impressive. And Texas Tech, what a game. What an absolute showstopper. And what a performance to rally in the second half just to come back and advance to Elite Eight. They'll take on Florida tomorrow.
That should be fun.
The rest of the two games, maybe not as entertaining. Alabama dropping over 100 on BYU. Ouch. Ouch.
Ouch, indeed.
That was a shooting contest. There were a lot of threes. And Mark Sears, man, he was absolutely just dropping those 3-pointers. And same with the rest of that Alabama team. They could not miss a thing. And when you put up over 100 on anyone in college basketball, you're moving on to the next round. You're winning. No way you're losing that game. But really good performance by Alabama. Duke is not going to have nothing easy. And I do mean nothing easy going into the Elite Eight. And same with Texas Tech, who is going to face a very hungry Gators team who took Maryland out. So if you're wondering why I was thinking about Maryland, it was just because I thought Maryland could make a run. They made a great run in the Sweet 16, but clock strikes midnight, and Florida was just too much for the Maryland Terrapins.
Right. Now let's focus on what we have for tonight. Michigan State both have the opportunity to do something crazy in the South region. Pull off some really impressive victories and set up an Elite Eight matchup that in the battle of the Mitten State to determine the South Final Four representation. Could it happen? Maybe. We'll see. I mean, I have Auburn winning in my bracket, but I don't mind it getting busted if we have an all-Michigan final in the South region.
Wouldn't that just be an absolute crazy, crazy headline? Michigan versus Michigan State in the Elite Eight. Rivalry renewed at the biggest stage. Not just another NCAA tournament game. The Elite Eight. Two of the best teams in the Big Ten all season long. Come facing together one more time. Now, before that can happen, though, two tough matchups. Of course, Michigan, they're going to have their hands full with Janai Broome and this Auburn offense. So, the thing is, Michigan's bigs. They're going to have to play some really terrific defense, and they're going to have to be able to clog those lanes and keep Janai Broome out of the paint. 3-point defense will be essential, too, for Michigan. And if Michigan can have good defense along with a balanced offense, they're going to have a chance to beat this Auburn team. I don't think this is an easy matchup for Auburn at all. I think Michigan can be tough. They got size. They got some athleticism. And this for Michigan State, tough matchup with Ole Miss. Chris Beard, he loves to play tough defense. So it won't be easy on Michigan State's offense. But with that being said, Izzo's team this year, they've been tough all season long on the defensive side of the ball, too. So this could be a low-scoring game. Very low-scoring game. And both of these two games, they could go either way. Lots of variables and factors. So you got two great coaching minds, Chris Beard against Tom Izzo, who's absolutely a legend. And then you got Dusty May, a guy who is really starting to carve his legend at NCAA basketball, and now starting new things at Michigan, going up against Bruce Pearl, who just absolutely has had Auburn rocking. The jungle. No, the jungle, man. The jungle's going to be present tonight. So can Michigan overcome those Auburn fans too?
It would be crazy to have the South Atlanta, instead of having an all SEC battle, have an all Big Ten battle. Wouldn't that be something?
I was going to say, it could be either SEC, almost going to mention, could be either all SEC in the South or all Big Ten. Or it could be one of each. One never knows.
And we also have another conference that has some determinations for the Elite Eight matchup on Sunday, right?
That is correct. Now, Michigan and Michigan State, they're not the only Big Ten teams still remaining, and same goes for Ole Miss and Auburn's not the only Not the only SEC teams remaining. So we also got a Big 12 team taking on a Big 10 team. Houston, Purdue, in the heart of it, Indianapolis. Big time game. If Purdue wants to go to the Elite Eight, what they did this past weekend, they need more of. You got to take care of that basketball, though. You can't have 17 turnovers versus this vicious Cougar defense because they feast on the turnover. And they are known to cause problems. And here's the thing. Purdue has struggled a lot. Many of the losses that Purdue has this season have come against teams who play that poised defense. And if you can get under Purdue's skin, sadly that Purdue's in trouble then because they have a hard time overcoming obstacles like that. When things go wrong, they have a hard time overcoming adversity. So this Purdue team is going to be tested tonight in the heart of Indy. They have just, like I've said before on my Wax on Wednesday, Purdue has just one advantage over Houston, and that one advantage is home crowd. The game is in Indy. Thank God for that. Purdue fans, they travel well. They're going to show up tonight at Lucas Oil Field. So that's the one advantage Purdue has. Houston's got that experience. Of course, Purdue returns a lot of their experience too. And another thing is, got to shoot the ball well, rebound the ball, play defense, and you will have a chance to beat this Houston team. Kentucky versus Tennessee, that's going to be popcorn entertainment. SEC on SEC crime.
Oh, man.
That is definitely a
border
rivalry.
battle.
That's the Bluegrass State versus the Volunteer State.
Oh, yeah, that's a border battle right there if I was all one.
That is, I think Tennessee comes out of that one victorious due to their experience, and you got guys like Meshack, and you got Zakiah Ziegler who can provide a spark on offense. But this Kentucky team is pesky. They are poised and you know what? This isn't Calipari's Wildcats. This is now the Mark Pope-led Kentucky Wildcats. They're going to have a chance in this game. If they come out roaring, and if they can get Tennessee in a lot of trouble, especially on offense, they're going to have a chance to win this game.
That's very important because, because we're not dealing with a Calipari-led Kentucky team. Now that he's down in Arkansas.
Absolutely. It's even I'm still weirded out by it because, all right, Kentucky's in the Sweet 16, but John Calipari is not leading the way. So that's definitely still kind of taking some getting used to, but Mark Pope is doing a great job in succeeding John Calipari and has done a great job. This is a newly refreshed Kentucky team. They've got a new focus. They're not worried about what everyone else thinks. And right now they're more worried about, taking out Tennessee tonight. I mean, this is a rivalry game. These two are big-time rivals. So get that popcorn ready because this game is going to be really, really good. Also, I want to mention this. Purdue and Houston, tip-off time of 10:09. It's a late game. Thank God it's a Friday.
Yeah.
Whew. The NCAA's got to do a better job scheduling these games because some of these games are going past midnight, especially the ones on Thursday. So got to do better with the scheduling, in my opinion, with that. But we're in for some really great matchups tonight. Michigan, Auburn, you got Michigan State, Ole Miss, Purdue, Houston. Let's see if Purdue can make use of that home crowd, or is Houston's defense going to be too much? And then you got Tennessee and Kentucky, another chapter in this SEC rivalry, orange versus blue.
That'll be fun. And the best part is, when we come on, if we like to come on air next week, I think we can definitely talk about the 4 winning teams when we have the Elite 8 happen this weekend as well. We will know our Final 4 contenders by then. Those 4 lucky teams head down to San Antonio.
San Antonio. That's where the road to the Final 4 ends. I guess a few more other things that I wanted to address. I mentioned the Lucas Oil Field hosting the Elite 8 for the Midwest region. I just got to say, okay, I'm all for it. The city of Indy hosting the NCAA tournament. Always. They're going to be next year's Final Four host, which I'm happy about. They'll be at Lucas Oil Field.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I don't like the idea of having the Elite 8 and the Sweet 16 at Lucas Oil Field, especially when you got it kind of like condensed to one corner of the stadium. because now there's not going to be a whole lot of good seats available. Like if you want a ticket for that game, and they're pricey by the way, but even if you get a ticket, there's a good chance you're going to get a seat that's like a nosebleed or something, because this is an NFL stadium we're talking about, not like Gainbridge Fieldhouse, which would have been perfect for the Elite Eight and Sweet 16 in Indy. I'm not exactly sure what happened that led to the NCAA having to put the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight at Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis, but this is just like, look, I like it. Okay, I'm all for Indy hosting the tournament, but can we just work some things out and have the big games at Gainbridge Fieldhouse? And when it comes to the Final Four, you can host that at Lucas Oil Field. That works for me.
Well, they had a lot of games at Lucas Oil Stadium when they did the all Indianapolis final March Madness back in 21. But besides that, yeah, I can kind of see what you're getting at. Big NFL stadiums shouldn't exactly be hosting these types of events. You build these decent NBA stadiums for that very reason. Now, granted, the Syracuse Orange play their college basketball games in their college football stadium anyway, because it's a dome stadium, so I kind of see that argument too.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I don't have as I've said before, no problem with it if it's the Final Four at Lucas Oil Field. And I had no problem with that even in the COVID years. Like in 2021, it was COVID was a big thing in that. Mm-hmm. So I had no problem with it being at Lucas Oil Field, and they had parts of it blocked off to keep for like social distancing purposes.
Something we should never go back to.
Yeah, I hope not either. It was different then than it is now. We're back to now having crowds in the games. And
totally.
I'm all about putting forth the best experience possible for the fans. And when it comes to, like, if we're talking Sweet 16 and Elite Eight, I just don't think Lucas Oil Field was the best choice. But all I can say is there had to have been a reason, an absolute logical reason why they had to. My guess is maybe Gainbridge wasn't available, or maybe something was going on at Gainbridge around that time. I don't know for sure, but I just think it would have been like for Sweet 16, Elite 8, Gainbridge Fieldhouse each and every single time. One final thing I just wanted to point out before we move on to our next subject, if Tyler's got one. Kevin. So I mentioned Kevin Young, who is the coach, and Kevin Willard. Those are the those are two more coaches on the coaching radar, or Villanova's coaching radar. Kevin Willard could be on his way out of Maryland. One does not know for sure. It's just a rumor. And maybe Kevin Young, who's at BYU, could he be on the move? We'll see. Well, sports fans, hopefully you're enjoying the March Madness as much as me and Tyler is. Mm-hmm. I believe shifting gears, I believe a new season of the UFL is starting, Tyler?
United Football League. Yes, it has. The merged league of the XFL's third reincarnation and the second reincarnation of the United States Football League from the 1980s became the United Football League last season, and now the Upstart League is entering its second season in the Unified League. However, it appears that their Players Association is making some noise about a potential strike that could cause games to get canceled. And yeah, for an upstart league in spring football, that's not exactly good when money's still relatively tight and all that.
No bueno. No bueno. That is no good at all. And this is a smaller league, as Tyler's mentioned. They cannot afford to have something like this happen, or at the very least, this is a strike that they cannot have. They can ill afford to have it linger for weeks, because if that happens, that's a loss of a lot of money, and the more money they lose, the more at risk this league is at shutting down again, just like the original UFL or the original XFL. Mm-hmm. Those leagues folded because money was an issue around those times.
Well, of course, the second incarnation collapsed because of COVID concerns, so
that definitely did not help.
No.
But there are people out there who enjoy spring football, and there's people out there who just don't get enough football. 365 days a year, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no wonder ESPN talks about NFL all the time. And NBA all the time.
Yep.
Money definitely talks.
You get paid to talk about those points. So, again, hopefully the players and the association and all the higher ups of the UFL, hopefully they can get things sorted out and relatively quickly, because these are, again, there are guys who are playing in this league whose livelihoods depend on this. Like, some may be working jobs outside of like the football gridiron, but a lot of guys their income is dependent on these type of leagues. So they need this. They need this. The players need this more than most of our people realize. So hopefully get things sorted out, talk it out. Hopefully it just lasts like 1 or 2 weeks and then we're back at it. Because, there's a lot of storylines going into it. I know, can Birmingham repeat as a UFL champion? Or maybe a team like the Detroit Panthers, can they break through? I'm curious to see how a team like the St. Louis Battlehawks, they're a team I'm curious about.
Yeah, that St. Louis the city has embraced that team pretty well. You're during the during the 2.0 edition of the XFL, because not having an NFL team gives them that advantage of beginning to create their own organic home market. And the Panthers, they had Jake Bates last year. Mm-hmm. That guy is now kicking in that very stadium he kicked at for the Panthers with the Lions now. He wanted to stay in Detroit for a reason. And he's done pretty well for the Lions.
He's he's made himself kind of a local hero in Detroit, whether it's with the Panthers or even the Lions. Mm-hmm. Got a bright future in the NFL, though, I will say.
Yep.
So, like I said, as Tyler mentioned, St. Louis, I don't think they're looking for an NFL team anytime soon. They got the Battlehawks. They've embraced them enough. And with the whole Stan Kroenke situation, I don't think St. Louis wants to go through that again. And you know what? That's a city that deserves better. Hey, they're doing fine without the Rams. They got the Cardinals. They got the St. Louis Blues. They will tell you, if you ask St. Louis fans down there, do you want the NFL to come back or not? I'm pretty sure 7 or 8 out of 10 of them will say, nah, we good.
We also got the St. Louis City SC in the MLS, so there's that.
Plenty of sports for them to go around.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, not every city is built for a particular sport. And I'm not saying like St. Louis can't be built for like football, but hey, they probably, like I said, they could have an NFL team if they wanted to, but I don't think they really do. I think they're pretty happy with what they've got. And hey, you know what? St. Louis is a baseball town. That's Cardinals town right there. They love their Cardinals. So, and the Battlehawks, they're getting a lot of respect too from a foot. So, if you want to talk about St. Louis football, Battlehawks, that's the way to go. And it feels something that's like their own football team. I mean, after all, the Rams moved from Los Angeles to St. Louis and then back to Los Angeles. So there's that story in and of itself.
Right.
I guess to kind of conclude on this subject, like Tyler said, hopefully the strike resolves itself. And hopefully, I'm curious to see what teams will take a step forward. Who can challenge Birmingham? Can the Panthers deliver a football championship to the state of Michigan? Will me and Tyler go and see the Panthers? Possibly go see a UFL game.
Yeah, I mean, we got Ford Field. It's in a dome and easy to get to. So we'll see. I mean, it might be moot if the strike happens. So it might not happen tonight. Might not happen this weekend. Could happen next week. Could not happen at all. We'll see. But I have doubts of it happening. This isn't like the MLB lockout, where the MLB and the LBPA both have decades of have years and years and years of relative experience in these types of situations. This is still, at the end of the day, an upstart league. This isn't good at all.
Keyword, upstart. And upstart, that means, hey, they're young, they're new, they can't afford this. So, in conclusion, to the players and to the higher-ups, come to the table, let's get this resolved, and let's play football.
Agreed.
Let's play football.
Yes. And who knows, we might have some footage at a future Panthers game in Detroit to bring to you if all goes well. We'll see.
Absolutely. It's something me and Tyler are hoping to explore this summer. Time will tell.
Yep, or at least sometime in April and May. I mean, they don't play a whole lot of home games here because of any whatever commitments Ford Field might have in the springtime. So,
Absolutely. But again, with this UFL, things should be interesting for them going forward.
I agree.
All right, sports, and with all that being said, sports fans, that is what we are going to leave you with to think about. Again, just wanted to thank you all for all the support you've given me and Tyler and everyone here at the studio at Waterford. Special thanks to Josh, and special thanks to Mary. Special thanks to Rhonda and my mom. Thank you to everybody who has supported us. We greatly appreciate that. If I missed any names, I do apologize.
Absolutely. I also want to give those thanks as well, where they are well deserved.
Now, with all that being said, hey, if you guys have anything you want to say, leave it down below in the comments. Any questions you have for us, me and Tyler would love to answer your questions, or even just reply to some of your comments. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Two Guys Talk Sports on other things on YouTube and Two Guys Talk Sports on Facebook. Now, with all that being said, we're going to sign off. This is Jake Waxman.
And Tyler Lavalette.
Wishing you all a good weekend. Enjoy March Madness, everyone.